that's played a major role in being our art gallery presenters for our presentation as well.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Black history is American history.
Welcome to South African Latino across indigenous. Black history is American. Welcome to South African Latino across indigenous. Black history is American. Welcome to South African Latino across indigenous. Black history is American.
Are you hearing that echo?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That was for those first two videos. What is Fort Mose? Fort Mose is the first sanctioned free Black community in North America. We're going to present the video next with Mr. Jefferson talking about Fort Mose.
Good morning, everyone. This is Mr. Jefferson, and we're having a wonderful time in South Africa. It is African American History Month, Black History Month, however we want to say it. It's a great time in America, but we like to say that African American History Month is 24/7, 365. So we're always trying to include African American history in our everyday studies, whether it is in mathematics or in science or in social studies, of course, or in reading or ELA or English. So we here at South Africa are very much involved in that process. We are thankful to Mr. Glover for putting together a wonderful African American history field trip and display. As you can see, we have African American art or African art in our African museum here that we put together for us to be a part of. What I'm going to talk about a little bit about today is, of course, what is Fort Mose? Fort Mose is considered the first sanctioned Black community in North America. There have been several Black communities in North America since the beginning of this country's inception, even prior to that. And we talk about 1619, when first Africans were brought here to this country or came to this country. And we know historically it's to be true as well that Africans had sailed here long before 1619 of their own free accord at some particular point in time. History has and continues to open the door to prove those things to us as well. Mansa Musa's brother, Mansa Musa was one of the greatest African kings of all time, and considered to be the wealthiest man in the history of the world. His brother came here. Mansa Musa came to here, the Americas. It is believed long before the Americans. But when we're talking about Fort Mose, the beginning of Fort Mose dates back more than 40 years ago. Courageous Africans escaped from enslavement in British colonies. They fled south to Spanish St. Augustine at that time, crossing swamps and dish forests. Along the way, they saw the assistance of natives, thus creating the first underground railroad. And we know for a fact that many Africans who escaped from the colony of Georgia, the colony of South Carolina, came to Florida, assimilated with Native Americans at that time, and became a part of Native American culture. So when you hear sometimes that people say that African Americans here in the South are very are part of Native American, or you hear sometimes people say that they have Native American lineage, they probably do because the Seminole, Sequester, and those Native American tribes that were here during that time took African Americans in who were fleeing slavery in the South during that time. Those that came, not all of them survived. Those who reached St. Augustine were granted asylum by the Spanish government. It was a unique offer of freedom in exchange for conversion to Catholicism, and for men, a term of military service. So we know that in the Spanish colonies, that African Americans or Africans at that time became a part of the Spanish colonies. The Spanish, who were really kind of the first ones to bring Africans to the New World. Alejandro Aquillano, who came and traveled across the Americas with the Spanish explorers, also, so it helped scout and plan out the routes for the Spanish explorers, came long before the British and the colonization of and the British type slavery period. So we know that Africans have been here. They assimilated with the Native Americans in the South, especially here in Florida, where Mose is, and especially with the Spanish during this time. That is another one of the reasons why when the British decided to invade Florida, to take over Florida, to create the colony at that particular point in time, or the state at that time, between the British when they invaded Florida to take over, it was due to slavery as well, because so many slaves were escaping to the South. So I hope you've learned a little bit of something. We have a video here, a field trip. Mr. Monson Lane will be giving you that field trip. It'll be awesome, awesome experience, and we hope that you enjoy this this video field trip that we're putting on here at South Intensive. Thank you very much.
So next, we're going to show the presentation from Mr. Monson Lane. He did the virtual field trip pre-recorded for us yesterday. It was great experience and a lot of knowledge. I learned a lot of stuff. Good day, Mr. Monson Lane. Thank you so much for participating in our South Intensive Transition, African, African American, African Native American, Latino, Holocaust, and Gender Studies, Volume 2. I'm going to let you have the floor as you discuss what is Fort Moore Say, the upcomings, the bringings, current, present, and now. Thank you so much on behalf of our school and the school district and the rest of the committee, Mr. Hollander, Mr. Gross, Assistant Principal, as well as Mr. Jady, Principal, and Mr. Jefferson. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're quite welcome, Mr. Glover. And before I get started, I want to give first of all, a huge hello to the South Intensive Training School. And I also want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to your computer lab manager, Mr. Glover. I've been around teachers all my life, and I know what a good one looks like, and you guys have a good one there. Before I start the Fort Mose story, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Monson Lane, and I make my home in St. Augustine, Florida. St. Augustine, Florida is just south of city of Jacksonville and about 250 miles from where you folks are now, straight up the East Coast. I'm a retired educator, retired from the Groton, Connecticut Public Schools, where for my first 3 years, I taught history class, American history to high schoolers. I then went to the middle school and taught 3 years of American history to 7th graders. And I spent the rest of my career in administration, 5 years as an assistant principal, and the rest of my career as a middle school and elementary principal. I retired in 2015 and moved to St. Augustine, Florida, where I met a very special guy. I consider him one of my closest friends today, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell is a retired Army officer, and he started to tell me a story about Fort Mose, which I knew nothing of, even though I taught history. He told me how he spends his weekend in the black militia at Fort Mose. And he really piqued my interest. I had to know more. So my wife and I joined Fort Mose, and today I'm the educational chair for the Fort Mose Historical Society. And today I'm happy to share the Fort Mose story with you. The Fort Mose story is one of all the horrors of slavery and all the awful things that go around it. But it's also much more. It's also about the thrill of freedom and everything those freedom seekers went through to gain their freedom. The Fort Mose story is a story about heroes. There are many heroes in the story. It's a story about the people and what they had to do to get here. It's a story about bravery, intense bravery. But most importantly, the Fort Mose story is the story of the will to live free forever. After all, Fort Mose is, and this is what I want you folks to remember today, Fort Mose is the home of the first sanctioned free black community in North America. Fort Mose came first, free sanctioned black community. Now that makes the Fort Mose not only a St. Augustine story, it is a Florida story. Fort Mose is an American story, and Fort Mose is also an international story because really it starts on the west coast of Africa. Now the story begins in 1513 when someone by the name of Ponce de Leon discovers Florida. Ponce de Leon was sent here by the King of Spain to discover the new land that was found. And in about 50 years later, the Spanish king sent over to Florida troops to establish the very first community in North America in St. Augustine. Many people think it was the British up in the Mayflower and Virginia, but no, St. Augustine was founded 60 years before the Mayflower sailed. And what you have to understand, big part of the story is for 250 years, the countries of Spain and England were at war. They hated each other, and they were always looking for ways to provoke each other. There were two systems of slavery that were established, the Spanish and the English, and I'll talk a little more about that later. One thing the Spanish did to try and provoke the English colonies, remember the English colonies were just above Florida, starting in Georgia and extending all the way up to Maine. And then there was the Spanish colony of Florida. Again, those countries in Europe don't like each other at this time very much. So in 1686, the Spaniards said, and they proclaimed, any slave that leaves the English colonies and comes to St. Augustine will forever be free. Now, it took a while, but word began to spread throughout the colonies. Freedom is to the south. Many people think the Underground Railroad went north. It did, but the very first one went north to south. And as word spread, the Africans began to make their plans. They made their plans to escape for the freedom. And it was a little over a year later that the first freedom seekers arrived in St. Augustine. 8 brave men, 2 brave women, and a child between 1 and 3 years old are recorded as the first arrivals in St. Augustine to gain their freedom. Over the next 50 or so years, 100 escaped slaves arrived in St. Augustine. So many that it was time for them to establish their own town just north of St. Augustine. And the name of that town was Garcia Real de Santa Teresa de Mose, better known today as Fort Mose. So why did they come? The Spanish still held slavery in St. Augustine, but I want to make a distinction between Spanish slavery and the English method of slavery. They were very different. Spanish slaves were allowed to marry. They were allowed to earn their own money. With that money, they could buy their freedom. Very important. Most importantly, Spanish slaves could sue their owners in court for cruelty. That was a huge difference. All of these are hugely different, where none of that applied to slavery in the British colonies. So they came. They came to Fort Mose, risking tremendously in order to get here. They made many sacrifices. Most of the Africans came from plantations in Georgia and South Carolina. There is documented cases of them coming all the way from Charleston, South Carolina. Now that is as far away from St. Augustine as you folks are from me today, 250 miles. And there's no cars, there's no trains, there's no houses, there's not even a path to get there. And so they came and they went through just horrific things to get here. For instance, starting with escaping. If they were caught, many were tortured or killed. On the way here, they had to travel 250 miles through swamps filled with hungry alligators, and also with mosquitoes to give them diseases. Also along the way, the freedom seekers encountered bounty hunters sent there by the owners in the British colonies. The bounty hunters were out there for one reason: to return them north. They also met North American Native Indians. Many of them were there to help them find the way. Some of them were not. They were not all friendly, and some of them died at the hands of the Indians as well. Many, many, many died en route here. Upon arrival, the Spanish king decreed that they only had to do 3 things for their freedom. They had to become Catholic. They had to serve in the militia. That was a great thing. Many wanted to serve in the militia, and that's what my friend Mr. Mitchell does today. And lastly, they had to pledge loyalty to the King of Spain. But most of all, it meant freedom. And what did freedom mean to these folks that arrived from up north? It brought together a variety of cultures from all of West Africa. It brought all those cultures together right here in St. Augustine. They had the sense of community. Where they could make the decisions for tomorrow. It gave them a sense of self-defense, that militia I talked about, and where they could build and own their own homes and protect their families, their sons, their daughters, their wives. They could learn and practice a trade. Our research on the property shows that they were involved in farming and fishing, and many developed carpentry skills, and they became iron workers. All that so they could earn money, raise a family, just like we all are free to do today. Most importantly, the decisions for the community were theirs and theirs alone. Unfortunately, Fort Mose only lasted for about 25 years. There was something called the French and Indian War that took place in the Treaty of Paris. All of Florida was sent back to British control, and those Africans that arrived feared their freedom and feared that they would be returned. The Fort Mose story is a story of freedom. It's a story of freedom denied to those that were ripped from their homes in Africa and sent in chains and horrendous conditions to the New World. But more importantly, for some, it's the story of reclaimed freedom, something that is recognized today as a human right for all of us. I want to thank you for allowing me to present the Fort Mose story. I very hope that there was much gained from my story. I also want to thank some others. I want to thank the entire South Intensive Transition School for inviting me to come and speak to you and share the story. I want to thank the principal, Mr. Judy, and assistant principal, Mr. Goss. Especially thank computer lab manager, Mr. Glover, and I also thank the entire faculty. I'm looking forward to returning next year at Fort Mose, and thank you again, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Monson. That was the principal actually calling there. Let me call him back to see if he's able to just log in real quick so you can meet him, okay?
Sure, absolutely.
That was perfect.
Yeah, it was awesome. Really, really well done.
Oh, thank you. Much appreciated.
Yeah, Fort Mose is definitely on my bucket list on where we've been to St. Augustine as a family quite often.
Yep.
And we drove by, but the visiting center was closed at the time.
Yeah.
So on our things to do list.
I sent you a link. Can you please?
We unfortunately are a state park, and so
Yep.
we have to conform to their closings and everything else. Unfortunate. If you're ever up this way, or your kids are ever up this way, the Flight to Freedom we do in February. Are you aware of the Flight to Freedom?
I've been there for the Flight of Freedom actually. Once before.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome experience. We're expanding it this year, adding another scene 10, and
Okay.
but we're off, unfortunately, and the decision hasn't been made to when we're going to come back on.
Okay, so when will it be active? You don't know?
Okay, Flight to Freedom is up in the air. It's definitely off for February. We were looking at a May start, but right now the leadership of the Historical Society is thinking of probably, because all our schools up here cannot go on field trips. The St. Johns County and Duval schools are not allowed to go on. That's today. That could change tomorrow. So I don't know if May is going to be a go or no go. That decision will be made by the end of the month.
Okay.
And all this information can be found on the site?
Yeah, we'll make sure we get that all on the site. And if you folks want to come up, give me a jingle and I'll definitely get you in the queue and get you in there.
Yeah, we want to come
That
up.
would be awesome.
Let me ask you this as well. I'm a Freemason. I was wondering, is there any research that dates back? Were there any Masonic lodges there?
I know there's Masonic lodges in the area, but I don't know the dates of their origin.
Can you find out for me? Because I would love to put our Grand Master in contact with you, and we do another one just in retrospect to that, because we just did something in reference to Brother July Perry up in the Orlando area.
Yeah.
It was similar to a Rosewood situation. And this is like phenomenal. And I'm quite sure with a lot of things that went on, there had to be some type of, lodges in the area, with all the and all the structure that was in place. So I'm definitely eager to know of any of the our first Masonic lodges that may have been in the area,
Yeah, sure. Man, there's a ton of structures that were still there from back in the day, even back to Fort Mose. And so let me take a look around and I'll send you what I can find.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
It's been an honor and a pleasure. All blessings. You definitely reconnected me with parts of my family I never knew,
Yeah.
And,
Awesome.
yeah, we're Cherokee, Seminole, as well as African Native American. So I could connect, and I've always known that a lot of slave ships came in via Florida, Savannah border, James Island, South Carolina. So
Yeah.
you connected the dots for me.
Hey,
It's phenomenal.
It's all who we are, isn't it?
Yeah, and even in Alabama, there was a ship that was just found called the Clotilda, and we put it in our presentation as well. So now, if it came to Alabama, it had to stop through Florida first.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
It's not hypothetically thinking, but just common sense,
Yeah. And I have learned a lot moving down here from New England, and I have a large group of friends now at Fort Mose who are the founders of Fort Mose, and I love sitting around and having those discussions of their family origins and their families and when they came here and where in Africa they came here. It's an eye-opening experience, and I just love living in St. Augustine because of it.
That's what's up, man. I love it. I can't wait to meet you personally, Mr. Munson, and I can't wait to just go see my ancestral grounds. I'm overwhelmed. I got goosebumps.
That's awesome. That now I feel good.
Yeah, and really I owe a lot of thanks to my cousin. He's one that enlightened me on Fort Mose. His name's Corey. And Corey told me about this phenomenal place a couple months ago. And just recently, Corey drove from California to Florida to see me, and I didn't tell him what I was working on because I wanted to actually do this today. And I'm going to send him the link. Like, listen, you were right on the money, but you tapped into something way bigger than we all could imagine. Like you said, this is the first sanctioned city for African Americans, natives. Like, this is phenomenal.
It's the one and only.
In the world. This is phenomenal. So you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I hope this all works for you. Ideally, I may not be the right person to deliver this message, but as I hope to expand the education department, I'm hoping we can bring some folks, of color to tell the story. We have plenty of folks now. Right now, I'm the only education. I am it.
But you keep me in mind for future reference, because you're on our virtual field trip that me, Mr. Hollander, and some more colleagues, we coined the term virtual educational field trip. So
Yep.
this is one of them. So you just keep me abreast in any future. You want me to facilitate, educate. As you can see, I'm almost well-rounded now.
Oh, you are.
Your knowledge, but we got to get the message out, because this should be on 60 Minutes. This should be on Good Morning America.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt, straight up, man. So you keep up the phenomenal work that you're doing. Many blessings to you and your family and our whole Fort Mose family and ancestors. Thank you so much.
I thank you, and you guys stay safe, and you keep working for kids. You're doing a fabulous job down there.
We will.
We appreciate that.
And give us a good review. Whatever you think of today's virtual field trip presentation, you let us know. We love the feedback, okay?
Okay. Do I send that to you?
Yeah, just send an email out. I'll get it out because it's time for us to go pick up some students.
All right. Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Nice
Peace.
to meet you. Bye-bye.
Meet you.
Okay, real quick, I appreciate everybody's cooperation. I'm going to share with you the review that he gave us. All right, so we can all see the email. This is the review he gave our staff, students, faculty. Said, Patrick, I thank you for including me and allowing me to tell the Fort Mose story in your celebration of Black History Month. I can sum up my experience in one word: awesome. I can tell in our small amount of time together that you folks are doing great things for kids down there at South Intentional Transition School. My personal experience is my life's work has been entirely in the public schools area. You truly showed me today that the extraordinary things are happening outside the public schools arena. You have restored my faith in the field of education. Keep doing what you are doing. Our very future depends upon it. And I just want to say, I thank the students, faculty, staff, in its entirety for making this experience a great experience. And that's the review that we got from Mr. Monsoon Lane. So if you all could just be so kind to take his email address and just send him an email, a thank you or something like that, because he really afforded us a lot of time. We put in a lot of work communicating over the past 3.5 weeks with bringing this into fruition. And he took out the time and gave us a phenomenal review. And we shouldn't take this lightly, because you all are doing great work during these unprecedented times, and I salute you, pat on the back, applaud, keep up the great work. And we're going to end this presentation on that note. There are other slides that you all could go through on your own and look at them and view them and things of that nature. Bring your students by the computer lab and check out the virtual art gallery for the day. It's mobile right now, so it'll be out of here in about an hour or so. So in saying that, I love being a part of this illustrious SIT family, students and staff. You keep up the great work. We winning. Yin yin, estamos ganando, bien grande. Mucho, mucho, mucho. Peace.
Thank